I have decided that the next time it will be a hologram, so we're scrapping the mini room. We're not going to do that, and we're going to go into a 3D hologram. So if you think of this like, these kinds of things, that's essentially like what we can make, okay? So your first goal is to start planning out what shapes you're going to want in your hologram, what kind of things you're going to be creating. There's obviously a lot of complexity that goes into all of these, and our modeling abilities are not, for super advanced stuff, but they can do some pretty decent things with just basic shapes. So we wouldn't create something like this. We're not there yet. But we would be able to create something like, where's the other one? Something like that without too much problem. Okay, this is basic. This is just basic shapes, some glows, some metal materials, and that's it. Same thing here. This is, very hologrammy. I do recommend going to Pinterest, starting a little Pinterest page. I mentioned this before. It's great just to have this kind of reference because you just don't, if you don't see the stuff, you don't know what is possible, what you can build, okay? So that will be part of what you turn in. Also, the planning of what you're going to be doing for this will be a turn-in as well. Just so you can see what it's going to look like in Cinema. I'm going to go to quick shading. There we go. And I'm just going to hide some of these things so that I can actually see what I'm looking at. It's somewhere that this, there it is. All right, so you can see this is just basic shapes. These are just cubes or spheres or cylinders or something like that, and they're just duplicated around over and over and over again. Using the cloners, using a lot of those tools, we'll really spend a bit of time on this, messing around with the shaders to get the look correct, to get the placement correct. If I can find my file here, 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 and here. This is what it's going to look like as just like geometry. So you can see there's just like gray stuff right there. And then using the different materials, we can actually make it look pretty cool. Like that, okay? So just, this is 3 different materials I've used, maybe 4 different materials I've used. There's a brighter blue, a darker blue, an orange, and I think I have a white in there too. We can take this and make it look pretty intense, pretty complex. That's just, like I said, that's just that. Okay, so I would recommend, not recommend, I want you to go to Pinterest. I want you to create something. If you don't want to use Pinterest, you can create some other catalog, but get images together of different 3D UI stuff. Then go into Illustrator, Photoshop, somewhere that you're going to be able to do some more planning. And I'm just going to make a 6" by 6" is fine. And I'm just going to use some random tools inside of Illustrator just to get an idea of different shapes that I might want in here, okay? And again, the more planning you do here, the easier it's going to be when we get to the actual cinema part. If you go into this blind, you're not going to have any idea of what you're going to be creating, and you're just going to throw stuff together, okay? So I'm going to throw in a guide here. You guys have had at least Photoshop before, yeah? Okay. So they work pretty much the same as far as guides go. I'm going to use my circle tool. I'm going to create a circle from the center of this. And then I'm just going to start playing around with some of the properties for this. Has anyone here not had Illustrator? Okay. Yeah, so you're good. The basics, this is just basic stuff. There's nothing fancy about this. All right, so let's say this is my basic fill shape here. Come on. There we go. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it in place. I'm going to shrink it down. Maybe I'll make this white. I'm going to paste that again. Oops, I apparently did not paste. Copy, paste, shrink. There we go. This one I'm going to make black actually, and I'm going to switch the colors, and I'm going to go into the stroke palette and then make this like dashed lines. So now you can see it looks like dashes, which is, if I look at my hologram, you can see how I have like dashes right here, and dashes right there, and dashes right there. All of these are just like dashes. They're just like the same thing over and over again. I can tweak what these look like by changing the width. So if I make this a thicker stroke, I'm going to get thicker strokes on here. If I make the dash gap, the dash spacing here like smaller, oops, smaller is the other way, then they'll be tighter, and so they'll look different like that, okay? So go through this, get a good idea of what you want this to look like. An example of this, samples, wrong folder, class assignments, 1900, hologram, artwork. Yes. It's something like that, okay? So in here I have an idea of some different shapes that I want to use. I may expand on this once I get inside Cinema, once I realize how much I can do with this, but it's a good starting point for going into that, okay, as opposed to, again, just having nothing there. And if I go into this one, this is an even more complex one that, again, even though this is a 2D element that I'm using in Illustrator, we could actually take this into After Effects, which is one of my class's assignments in After Effects, is to make a 2D, 2.5D hologram. We could also obviously bring this into 3D and make this a 3D hologram type thing and animate it kind of spinning around and then do, you know, crazy stuff with it, okay? So don't overthink it. As long as you're able to just do some basic shapes, you can get a good foundation for creating something like that. Okay, this thing here, you'll see this one big stroke, and then a big space, and then a big stroke. Same thing. That's all it is. Here's a bunch of dots that I created on the outside, and here's a bunch of dashed lines. Okay. Questions on that? Planning? Okay.